After falling to the Celtics in last year's finals, the Mavericks still looked like contenders for years to come. You had Luka, one of the best players in the world, Kyrie, who thrives as a second option, and a deep young supporting cast around them, and then Nico Harrison said, "F all of that."
Just said, "F having a franchise player. I'm going to trade him for a guy that's 7 years older and far more injury prone." Completely ruined the Mavericks in one season and then got lucky as hell.
Before we start talking about the Mavericks' wild 2025 season, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos. So quick recap of the 2024 season first. The Mavericks' first full season with Kyrie and Luka. I mean, they were good for most of the season, but not great. They were floating around the play-in, but they really picked things up to end the year. You bring in Gafford and PJ Washington, help strengthen the front court. And after that, they finished the year 21-9, super hot, going to the playoffs. They get the 5th seed, taking on a familiar foe in the Los Angeles Clippers. They take them out in 6 games. Follow that up, they take out the Thunder in 6 games. Then the Timberwolves in 5 in the conference finals, but eventually they'd follow the Celtics in the NBA finals. Couple things to note about that run: Luka and Kyrie both played some great basketball. Weren't amazing in the finals. I felt like they were fine. Luka especially kind of got hunted on defense, got exposed. He was super injured though, to be fair to him. Like, he had all those wraps around like his midsection, his knee.
It was always bleeding somehow in every game.
I don't get how that worked, but yeah, his knee, literally like every playoff game was somehow bleeding.
Yeah, I mean, they struggled big time on defense in the finals too. Throughout the playoffs, they were fine, but you said it. In the finals, Luka was getting hunted like a wounded gazelle in the finals. Like, it was bad. Regardless, after the season, not going to say the Mavericks were the favorites going into next year. That was probably still OKC and Denver, but they were definitely going to be one of the players in the Western Conference. And during the offseason, they bring in Klay Thompson on that 3-year, $50 million deal. We were both like on the fence when they made this move because, like, yeah, in the finals, the Celtics really keyed in on Luka, trapped him, same with Kyrie, forced the ball into the hands of PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., forced them to shoot threes, and they just couldn't hit him. So you bring in Klay, one of the best spot-up shooters of all time, but also he's old, he's washed, especially on defense, so now you got a top 3 of Kyrie, Klay, and Luka, especially in an era where like team defense is more important than ever. Those 3 are playing perimeter defense. It just, I don't know, it was risky.
And you lose Derrick Jones Jr. to the Clippers on top of everything. He was playing great defense for them. He was even hitting open threes, like at least up until the finals. On top of that, you trade Tim Hardaway Jr. to bring in Quentin Grimes, and you sign Najee Marshall. So obviously the big pickup was Klay. I mean, like you mentioned, we were a bit skeptical about it, but the Mavericks still looked like contenders going into the new season.
And prior to the season, Luka suffered a calf contusion during training camp. He would return about a week later, but just something to note, and we'll touch more on that as we go along here. Mavericks would have a poor start though, 5-7 after their first 12 games, worst start since Luka's rookie year. They were dealing with injuries to PJ Washington and Derek Lively, and also you had a bunch of new guys there you had to build chemistry with, and a lot of those losses were also close games. So, you know, alarm bells not quite sounding yet, especially when they reeled off 14 wins out of their next 17 games.
Yeah, and some of those games were even without Luka. He had a wrist injury, coming out like a week, and missed a couple games of the heel contusion. So credit to Kyrie and the supporting cast. They step up big time. They went 6-2 without Luka to start the season. Pretty good. Like I said, credit to Kyrie and the supporting cast. But then disaster struck on Christmas Day. Luka re-injured his calf. Initial timeline put him out a month. Just a brutal blow to the Mavericks, who were only a couple games out of the 2nd seed at the time. Shortly after that, Kyrie gets injured. He had a bulging disc in his back, so he missed a week. And then Derek Lively would suffer a stress fracture in his right ankle. That kept him out 2.5 months. So by the end of January, the Mavericks, who were, fighting for the 2nd seed, were all the way down to 26-23, 9th in the Western Conference.
And apparently Nico Harrison was like, it's time to pull the plug. It's time to just start over, you know?
I guess.
You have a couple bad months due to injury, and it's like, let's just reboot everything.
Right.
Look, we've talked this trade to death in various other videos, but most shocking, I think, sports transaction ever. It came completely out of nowhere. No one ever thought it would happen. The Mavericks send out Luka for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and 1 first-round pick. It's just like, trading Luka is shocking enough. The fact that that's the package you get back for him, you couldn't do better than that. The Lakers literally would have sent you everything they have except for LeBron.
Yeah.
And they would have been over the moon doing cartwheels through the streets of Los Angeles to do that trade with you.
Yeah, it's an injury-prone Anthony Davis. I love AD's game, but he's old. He's injury-prone. You got Max Christie, who, like, his ceiling is probably like a starter. I don't see any scenario where he becomes a star. And then, yeah, the 1 first-round pick, which isn't going to be super valuable because the Lakers now have Luka. I can't imagine they're going to be this awful team. Mavericks fans, understandably, were completely crashing out. We had the protests outside American Airlines Arena. Those were just incredible to see. We had the Fire Nico chants, of course, during games. The trade was ridiculed around the league. It was shocking to everyone around the league.
I mean, it was so shocking that we had like football and like soccer channels talking about this trade. Like that's how shocking it was.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
The Mavericks would also trade Quentin Grimes and a second-round pick to the 76ers for Caleb Martin. This was mainly due to the fact that Quentin Grimes is set to be a restricted free agent the following offseason. Couldn't really afford to bring him back, I guess. But regardless, it is funny that Quentin Grimes also was balling out to end the year for Philadelphia. Maybe that's because they were tanking and he was just getting more touches, but
I mean, that's probably what it was.
Yeah, but regardless, he balled out. So depending on how you think about that trade, there's not much they could have done. They probably just would have lost him for nothing. So at least you get like a rotation player, but still funny that he was just balling out.
Yeah, Grimes is asking for what, like $25 million a year?
That's the report I saw.
Yeah, he probably won't get that, but the Mavericks for sure could not have afforded that whatsoever. So yeah, still just funny in hindsight. Did he drop 45 in one game?
I think something like that, yeah.
And I'm sure Caleb Martin probably never scored over 10 with the Mavericks.
Maybe like 13 or 14. He didn't play much because he was injured as well.
Exactly. Anyway, back to the season, I guess. The Mavericks follow up the trade, losing their next 2 games. Not a great way to start. First was a blowout in Cleveland, and the next one was a close loss to the 76ers. Did bounce back with a big win on the road against Boston, just cuz, I guess. And then we had AD making his home debut against the Rockets. To be fair, he fucking balled out in this game. 24 points, 13 boards, 5 assists, 3 blocks in just the first half. Mavericks had a 17-point lead at halftime. And then in just classic AD faction, this man picks up a fucking injury that knocks him out of the game. I mean, it's just, people were saying at the time, and it's so true, it is the full AD experience in a single game because, you know, he comes in, he's dominating, he's playing well on offense and defense, and then he fucking gets injured.
Yeah, they still hang on to win the game, but AD would miss the next 18 games for them. On top of that, PJ Washington also sprained his ankle in this game. He misses 11 the next 15 games. And then the very next game, Daniel Gafford sprains his MCL. He'd go on to miss almost 2 months. So this team just couldn't catch a break. They still are able to stay above 500. Kyrie just balled out in the month of February, but then another devastating injury on March 3rd. Kyrie tears his ACL. You feel for Kyrie, you know, he's getting up there in age. Really had balled out for the Mavericks so far, kind of like revitalized his career after.
I was gonna say, he like reinvented himself in Dallas.
Yeah, so I just hate to see it. Hopefully he comes back healthy. Brutal for him and Mavericks fans. And with all these injuries piling up, it got to the point they almost had to forfeit games. It never happened, but because of their salary cap situation, like touching the first apron, they couldn't like sign additional players. Their two-way guys were hitting like their limits. So they almost had to forfeit games. It would have been so funny, but just barely avoided that.
What would have caused that? Because like I remember back in like 2010, the Warriors played a game against the Blazers where they suited up like 7 guys.
Yeah.
And then had 3 foul out. So then Corey Maggette was playing, and if he picked up another foul, it would be a technical. Like they couldn't do that if they just had like 6 guys to suit up.
Well, I think they were getting so low. They had like 8 guys suiting up, and they had guys like, hitting their limits. They had 10-day guys they couldn't re-sign. So it was almost to the point where I think they couldn't field 5 guys out there on the court.
Just do like what I think Alabama did against Minnesota, where they played like 3-on-5 for a while after everyone got ejected.
Colin Sexton still almost won that game.
Yeah, exactly. With everyone out, though, the Mavericks would go just 5-11 in the month of March. But credit to AD, he came back before the end of the season, made his return on March 21st. They also got PJ Washington back, Daniel Gafford back, Derek Lively back before the end of the season. And speaking of returns, we had Luka's return to Dallas on April 9th. We got a video about this game if you want to go check it out. But rather predictably, Luka just torched his old team. 40 45 points, what, like 8 threes or something like that? Didn't
Just stayed hitting threes.
30 points in the first half, I think, something like that. Just what a game from him. And also, predictably, dude was like the most cheered player of the entire game.
Yep, of course he had the fire Nico chance as well. Had to expect that, and the Lakers get the win. But even still, with all this going on, all the injuries, the Mavericks still somehow found themselves in the play-in. They even beat the Kings in the first play-in game, so they were one game away from the NBA playoffs after all of this, but they would fall to the Grizzlies, ending their season. The good news for them, though, found themselves in the lottery, you know, Cooper Flag, hyped up prospect, the potential to get him, and with just a 1.8% chance of getting the first pick, they did get it. Just so damn annoying for us Blazer fans, of course, missing out on Cooper Flag, missing out on Wembanyama, that the Mavericks, after making the dumbest front office move, maybe ever, probably ever, you luck into the first overall pick, and you get Cooper Flag, who looks like a generational prospect. Just pisses me off.
It does, yeah. And again, like, if you think this was rigged, then you got to think Kyrie, like, is faking his ACL injury.
Right.
Because if he played out the end of the year, the Mavericks probably make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
You got to think AD faked his injury, right? Because if he plays out the rest of the year, Mavericks make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And they have no chance at it whatsoever. So that basically sums up the past 2 years. And then this offseason, Mavericks were rumored as one of the teams interested in KD, but he ended up going to the Rockets. We've heard their name tossed around for LeBron, which, how the f could you maneuver that? LeBron makes like $50 million a year. What package could they put together?
I don't know, but that would go hard. LeBron and Kyrie back together, and him with AD.
Yeah,
like,
and AD back. It's like the lineup that the Lakers always wanted, but never got.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, probably major moves are done with the Mavericks, but regardless, what happens with them moving forward, this season will never be forgotten. So what do you guys think? Will we ever see just a crazy ass season like the Mavericks just had? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving me a like, and hey, while you're here, check out some of our other content as well, and don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.
This should help you remember everything.
This fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
I hope he never wins anything in Miami. He is dead to me.
Not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
For the Miami Heat, a stunning ending to one of the more compelling seasons in NBA history. LeBron James captures that elusive title he so desperately coveted.